Yeah. This one is more personal. When I met this boyfriend, I can't let me call him Jim. Jim was the nicest guy. He was a former addict, and at the time I only had alcohol problem issues. So I didn't know what addiction was, what heroin was, or anything. Anywho, my son was 2 at the time, and we had a treatment center for drug addicts together. And people had said that I should be careful because they thought that Jim had relapsed, but I didn't know what signs to watch at. So anyway, one day my son was at my parents' place for the weekend, so I could clean up the apartment. It was my day off from work. I had to work from 2 days in a row, so it was very hard. And I was only, 23 at the moment. At the time. Anyway, he came, and I thought he came to pick me up, so we didn't have to use 2 cars. But he didn't come with his own car, and I asked what happened, and he just said that the car had broken down, so he took the train. And I could see that he wasn't himself. It's very hard to explain, but the nice demeanor he had just gone. And I asked him, are you on drugs? And I don't know, from nowhere a monster came at me. He grabbed me at the throat and pulled me down the floor, and I was actually vacuuming, so I was tumbling around. And he said that I always listen to other people, and I just have to shut up. And I tried to calm him down, but it was it was impossible. He got more and more angry, and I actually shut up. The only thing I asked him, it was if I could smoke a cigarette, just to calm my nerves down. And he began to turn the cigarettes on, and he took one and just threw it at me, and I began to cry. I have never ever tried something like that before, and I pleaded and I asked him, please stop, we have a son together, I love you, and blah blah blah. At the time, in my mind, I knew I had to go away. I just had to run. But he was very big, and I'm a little girl, woman, so he forced me to vacuum the apartment for, I think it was 3 hours straight. I couldn't stop, and I have a little bladder. I couldn't pee, so I have to hold on. And he just threw cigarettes at me. He threw the ashtray at the floor, and he said, you have to clean up there. And he threw some other stuff, plants, or you have to clean up there. And then he just hit me, not with the fist, but flat hand. But he had big hands, and I think it went on for 5 or 6 hours. And at the time, I thought I would die, because he told me that if I didn't do what he said, the first he would do was to kill me, and then he would kill my son. I didn't actually care if I would die. I thought about my son, and he also threatened my family and friends. And I remember I was crying and told him, I love you, why are you doing this? And every time I said something, and it didn't matter, he just got more and more angry. So I began to don't say anything, just vacuum the, yeah. Anyway, he was on drugs, so he began to be like that. And I lit up a cigarette just to calm myself down, and I tried to escape from the apartment. I had to take some shoes on. That was the most stupid decision I made, because if I just have ran out from the door, I would have been out. But I made too much noise, so he woke up. He took the car keys. We had another little red car, and he drove me to the treatment center, where we had 4 people who we treated, and they were in shock. I was red, green, blue, purple, every color, and my face was just at the time I really couldn't feel I was being beaten, because I was in utterly shock. I couldn't understand that the nicest guy I ever met in my life, whom I had a child with, whom I thought I would have share rest of my life with, could do a thing like that. I just couldn't understand it. And he kidnapped me to the place, and the others, they some of them cried, and Jim was very angry and told the others to shut up, or they can yeah. And they were all dependent on him, because he had the drugs, because it was the treatment center. So they didn't say anything at all, because they knew they had to do what he told them to. I began to feel the pain, the eyes. Oh my God, I looked out of some horror movie. I couldn't even cry when I look in the mirror. I never thought, because I always been a tough girl, that I would be in that position. And I still was thinking about my son, and I couldn't reach the cell phone. He was smart, he took it all. He had unplugged stationary phone and took my cell phone. He had taken my keys. Oh my God. And then he asked if I wanted some painkillers, and I said of course. I had a lot of pain over my whole body. He beat me with, yeah, actually it was 5-6 hours of torture. And I was also afraid in the car, because he tried to drive at the opposite side of the road just to make me scared. But I was just paralyzed, you know. But I got the painkillers, and then I think it took 30 minutes, 40 minutes, I don't know. I was in heaven. The painkillers he gave me was drugs. I later found out it was methadone. I couldn't feel the physical pain. I couldn't feel the psychological pain. I couldn't feel anything. I only felt that, you know, when you drink glasses beer and you get warm, yeah, up here, it was the same feeling. It was the first time I had hard drugs. Next day I woke up, and I felt sick, just like I had a flu. But I knew I had to go away from there, and he was still asleep. So I stole the car keys from his pocket, and went to the car, and it just say that, you know, noise, and I just couldn't start it. And then he came running out. He had taken something out from the motor, so I couldn't run away. and I just got beaten, and the patient we had just looked out the window, and the only thing I remember was the shame. I was ashamed that I was in that position, and from that day I began to take methadone to be numb, because I didn't want to feel the hurt. And it took me 7 years from that moment, if not 8, to come out from the abusive relationship. That's how it started. I don't know if it's a scary story, but for me, I sometimes think, what if, because I had chances after that to run away, and I did run away and took to a shelter, but I always came back because some other stuff happened. But at the time, did I choose to be a drug addict? I still have a big question mark, because I didn't know what I was given, but I asked for more next day, and the next day again, and the next day again, because I felt trapped. I felt that because he told me that if I walked away from him, he would find me, and he told me what he had done to his ex, and he would kill my family, he would go after my friends, and he will kill our son. And I believed him at the time. I don't think that he would today when I look back, but at the time, I was 23, I didn't know better. So so you never know. I really thought I hit jackpot with that guy, Jim. He was so nice, he was successful, everything he touched, it was success. He helped many people, he made many people clean, but one day from another, he became a monster. So I know how it is to live with a living monster. And the worst thing, I think, that I really, at the time, I think, yeah, I felt that I didn't deserve better. I couldn't get anything else, and I had to be there in order to keep my family and my son alive. And there are a lot of what ifs. And I have been to the police, but every time I have taken the claim away, because he of course threatened me. Yeah, that was my scary story too. And I think I have one more. Maybe it's going to be part 1 and 2, I'm not sure, because it's a little bit longer. But it's about when I chose to become an addict. I think that was one of the most worst days of my life. I say that a lot. Anyhow, see you in story part 3. Yeah, bye bye.